What's up, guys? It's Shades on Broadway. Giver, however you want to call me, go by, or Josh, if you prefer. I I'm just so ecstatic. We I want to make an update, but I'll be honest, I've been so exhausted with like the traveling back and forth, the time zones, just trying to figure out things going on outside of work with personal matters. Um, but I wanted to post like a quick update because I saw that Delighted did as well. My heart, my compassion goes out to the man. I watched the beginning of it, and I'm glad to see that he's feeling better, less pressure on himself. Just taking the game like a little less. I guess the way I would frame it is a little less personally, a little bit more personally. So being able to like express that emotion, that kind of like raw, um, open discussion, open-ended discussion is something that I found to be kind of inspirational. I mean, I'm not gonna make like a really long video. I know that he also like attached like an auto rank game to it. I'm not gonna try to do that. I definitely do have stuff in the pipeline, stuff in the works, because there's a lot of people asking me like, "Hey, I know you had a lot of cameras and recordings with you when you were up there," and I'm like, "Yeah, I did." So I'll just give like a brief like summary of like what we did and then what happened and what kind of went down. But I'm gonna try to make this one a little bit quick because now that I'm back from nationals, life has to go back to normal. You got your personal stuff, you got your work. It's not all fun and games. So just Catan is just as much as it is a big passion, you just still have to put other things in priority, put other things in your life first. And with that, I'll just briefly give you a rundown. So we did kind of when we made that video for the Ithaca qualifier, the original intention was to make like a really long breakdown summary of the final game, final table. Kind of like took a step back on that. Kind of wanted to make it a more like fun thing, something a little more snappy that you guys could look at. Um, Kind of like just dive into, get like a quick rundown of what happened, how I played, how we participated, how we qualified. It in all honesty, if you look at it, it's quite a significant thing. Coming from here to Ithaca, which is 5,000 miles, coming back, then going back out to Minnesota to compete in U.S. Nationals. To put it into perspective, it was just a lot. So, for those that don't know, kind of like how the US, I can speak for how the US does it because I did like a Reddit AMA the other day, which is a lot easier for me to do because it's just basically sending text messages. It's a lot less time, a lot less energy being put into it, but I still feel like I put honest and well thought out responses to like almost all of the comments. So if you guys haven't read that, I might put it in the description, but it's on the Catan subreddit. I'm a big Reddit guy, so if you guys are interested. I probably answered a couple questions, but of course, I'll definitely answer things in the YouTube section. But anyway, not to get off topic. So U.S. Catan National Qualifiers, how they work. CatanEvents.com, depending on what country you're in, where you're at, you should go to the website, find an event in your area. If there's not an event in your area, you have two options. You can reach out to studios themselves, or you can reach out to board game events, big organizers, tournaments like hosts, and then try to get one going yourself. You can't host one and play one at the same time. So to give you a rundown of how mine worked, I live in Hawaii. We don't have a lot of board game players in general or a very big population in general. So we tend to get one at most per year. I tried to play in mine. I made fifth seed out of the 16 players we had. Not enough. You have to make the final table and you have to win the entire regional qualifier. So what that means is you effectively have to be a state champion by winning a event in either your city or to represent your state. Generally, these qualifiers average, I would say, 16 to 20 people. There are quite a few. The minimum you need is 12 to make it a official qualifier. So few things you need to do first, right? You need to have minimum player count 12. You need to have official Catan Studios blessings that they approve not only the event, but the organizer, the host. And then you have to have a place to host it and a organizer to host it. So those three factors. And then, of course, you have to actually play there and win the event. So to give you like a rundown for that, how that works, if you're playing with sub 32 people, you generally play 3 preliminary games. Okay. So with 3 preliminary games, if that player count is on the much lower end of sub 32, you generally only need one win and two really high point games, either like 8-9, 9-9. Sometimes you can even like again, we're talking like if you have 12 to 16. I believe you only need one win and really high points in some cases to make finals. If your player count is 16 to 31 or 32, you generally need at least 2 wins, one game either medium points or higher end points. I think what I said is factually correct, but someone can correct me if I'm wrong. But anyway, for my Ithaca qualifier, I won 2 out of 3 games, high points in the third. So obviously I made finals, being that we only had 14 people. So for people that want like a quick rundown of, again, how that works. So you are effectively, again, playing with anywhere from 12 to some of the New York players get 64 or more. So that's pretty crazy. So you play 3 games, you move on to finals, you do or don't. I made 5th seed in Hawaii, missed finals, did not qualify. So now I have to fly out. It is not cheap as someone that lives here in Hawaii in general already, but then to fly out to another state, try to compete, take vacation, time off work, and then try to win that event and then come back and then fly back out to nationals. So that was a whole ordeal, but I did it in one shot in Ithaca, New York. So that was great. But just to give like a quick rundown for people that are in America, it's similar to for other countries, but America, you have to win a regional and then you have to win nationals and then you have to win worlds. Okay, so that's how that works. So I went in Ithaca. Nationals supposedly had 130 something regional champions, right? So that means that I and like 120 something other people are now flying up to Minnesota to go out against each other. So to give you like a quick rundown of how nationals works, you play 4 games. Now you need minimum 2 wins. And then because last year we only had 90 something players, I think you could squeeze in safely, I think it was 35 or 36 points to lock semifinals. So you play 4 preliminary games. You need 2 minimum wins. You don't get 2 minimum wins, you're dead. And then you need 2 high point games. Generally is pretty safe. 3 wins will always guarantee you semifinals, though. But because we had 120, so 130 roughly signups, 120 physically showed up at the event, our cutoff was 37. 36 still got a couple of people sliding in, I believe, including Dandy Drew, but 36 was a tiebreaker point where half the people that got 36 made it, the other half got bumped out, just due to table point percentage, right? So that's just how it happens. I hit 37, which was the minimum you needed to guarantee to make semifinals. So I got win in my first game, 8 points second game, win in my third game, 9 points in my fourth game. So I was good there, 37. And the fact that I did that to me was freaking crazy. The first game, so I did play with a couple of Discord people. It was so funny because when I went to the event, I got to meet Papa Sturdy in person, and we only ever played one Proven Competitor League game together, which was fun. And then I got to meet a new guy that joined named Arop. And then I arrived like freaking Friday 1 a.m. in the morning, right? But then Friday actual like day, we had Masters, North American Masters. So we had a lot of Canadian players and a lot of top American players just playing. And I was just watching, right? Like I'm a scrub at this point. So I'm sitting there in the background kind of watching, and I get to meet all these really cool people, like all these digital names that I've never met before, like in face to face. Like we got people like Choppa, Sparrowhawk, Swood are the 3 ones that immediately jumped to mind. Rang. And to be like, these are some people that you go back a year or two in chat logs, and I'm cussing them out over some games, you know. So finally being able to have like that direct confrontation with someone is it's kind of cool. It really is like a surreal moment getting to meet like these awesome individuals. But yeah, so Friday I was just kind of like chilling. I was exhausted, but at least given that Friday was like a chill day for me to just play. I actually played a shit ton of scrimmage games. So I think I played 5 scrimmage games, majority of which with AROP, and I think I played 2. I think I played 3 with AROP, or two or 3 with AROP, and then 2 I think with Papa Sturdy. I apologize. That's not their real names. I think it's Alan and Trevor. Don't kill me if I'm wrong, guys. I'm trying. But yeah, so I played a couple scrimmages with them, right? And then I got to meet like a few people from Catan community. That was really cool. And then come to find out, of course, that in my 4 prelim games, I get both Arop and Papa Sturdy in my games. And I'm just like, I mean, I could have had people that like I knew like way before, but these are people that I just met the day before that I really like. And now I have to crush them, right? Like, so, first game, we played against Papa Sturdy. We won, but dude, like I have to be honest, the 8 roll just did not happen for him, and I genuinely feel like he got kind of screwed by dice because the 8 roll was an 8 ore, and he did not get a city down. Like dude, how do you have the most ore and not get a city? Interesting thing to note about that game is that he lost with both Army and Road. So I think I won that game with victory points, if memory serves me correctly, like as my win condition. But it's very rare to see that you have a player that gets 9 points that loses the game holding Army and Road. Second game was the game I played against Alan Arop. Me and him had it out for each other, and then the other two players on our table, I could tell, were just not really that like hyper aggressive as we were. At several points during the game, they kind of like told me to like shut up, stop talking, like let's just get the game moving. And I'm just like trying to table balance because Arop is getting so far ahead. And then, I mean, I already wrote in the AMA. Like, again, we're gonna do like an actual breakdown, like a real breakdown of everything. So I just want you to take what I'm saying. Like, this is all memory, right? I still have to watch back all the footage to confirm what I'm saying. It's not just emotional or gut wrenching. But I felt like the way that I expressed myself, which is how I normally express myself in serious Catan games. Not in regional qualifiers, of course, where I don't know if the person's even played a single game before. But me going into a nationals event, knowing that everybody here is a state champion, I gave it everything I had with energy, with passion, with loud aggression. That I think on that particular table with those two players, that was not the right way to approach that game. And I should have taken more of Arop's approach, which was more laid back, reserved, kind of just chilling, but still playing at a serious level, but just not vocally annoying or expressing that to the other two players. So as a result of that, I feel like I irritated the other two players to the point where either they did not want to try to extend the game or that they would just rather have Arop ended it at that point. So I ended that one on 8, which is still 8 is a good score. It was enough, but to me, I felt like maybe moving forward, even if it's just a regional or even if it is nationals, where I would assume that everyone's gonna like scream at each other, right? That I just have to read the room first, maybe play like the first 10-20 minutes of the game to gauge like the players' personalities before I dive in all in. And I think maybe winning that first game going into the second game kind of led to that. Maybe it was just like a little bit too much with the adrenaline. I would even argue maybe I was a little bit more loud than I was the first game. So as a result of that, that's how I think that I lost that. There were a couple of like mistakes here and there in game. Of course, I'm never going to claim to be a perfect person when I play. In fact, I would actually say that I make more mistakes than the average high level player. But points aside, I think that would be my reasoning for that game. I would never blame that game on bad luck or bad whatever, or this guy didn't do what I wanted. Like, no, I think I just shot myself in the foot, and I think I didn't build correct table relations, and I think I could have done better that game. Moving on to round three. Round three was so much fun. I loved all the players on my table. Unfortunately, I don't remember all of their names. I do have to go back in BCP standings to look at that. I believe, yeah, I'm not going to try to guess. I think I know two of them, but since I don't know all three, I'm not going to try to guess and make a fool out of myself. But round three was so much fun. It was so chill, or at least in my perspective. It was a really fun setup. Everybody was actually really personable, really nice. I think we actually had a couple of really fun discussions like during the game, like unrelated to Catan. Like I think a couple of the gentlemen across from me, one of them mentioned he went up to Gen Con, and I was like, oh shit, me too, you know? Like I went up to Gen Con and I played Dice Throne. He's like, I love Dice Throne. I'm like, dude, that's like my main game aside from Catan. So being able to like actually like share little bits of that without it being manipulation, you know, like somebody trying to get into someone's head. Like I think we were all just like kind of like relaxed at this point, which I generally find to be true for most round threes, because usually people will either have a win in round one or two. Very rarely will you have somebody win both rounds. But if you win both rounds, then of course in round three you're going to be really chill. But what I'm trying to say is round three, I think, and round four tends to be a little bit more chill than the first two rounds on average. So the players that I got, I would say that particular game, the people that I had were the most personable, most kind, most friendly people that I had in all four of those games, and I really just enjoyed playing with them. Like I think that if I took it out of the context of the competition, that I would love to just play another game with them, like as friends, like still taking it seriously, of course, but like just getting to meet up together and have a lot of fun that way. But to speak to the game itself, Dude, I think my setup was really good. I'm trying to remember. Like, of course, I have to go back to the thing, but I think I played like an ore wheat sheep hybrid, with a lot of wood and a little bit of ore. But because I got on good ports, my numbers kept consistently hitting. One thing that I can say that I very clearly remember, and you guys are gonna dog on me when you watch the recording back when we finally post it. I was I'll just say the word. I was a bit of a bitch that game. Like I was overly complaining. Like I already, you know how I just talked about how we were so friendly, we were so kind to each other. I feel like I was being irritating in an even worse game in round two, but not in a way that was like respectful table talk, but in a way that I just sold my position down every single turn. I was like, this sucks. This roll's so bad. This development card's so bad. And one of the other players, she expressed that, yeah, he was just like, oh, I keep pulling night after night. Like I hate this game so much. Like, but in all honesty, I did pull that many nights, and then I pulled like I think it was Monopoly, Victory Point, Road Builder, and I'm just like, okay, now I can stop complaining. But because I just kept saying night, 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 and they didn't believe me at first, but when they saw like started seeing me flip, and I'm like, you guys shouldn't even purchase a single dev card. The army's already locked up and done. They're like, okay, this guy's cooked. Like he has like a settlement in a city, but he's just getting the whole like 10 night spiel, and I'm just sitting there like that's the position I upsold, and then now I'm looking at my devs like, oh, I got mono VP road builder up in here. So long story short, I ended up winning with double play. That was the quickest game out of all three. Despite that, I think it was sub an hour, and then everybody was shocked, and I was shocked too. Like winning in a national prelim game with double play is not easy to do. But I think we won that game with one victory point, 2 points from roads, that's three, two from army is five, and then I think I had a city for two and then three settlements down. So double play there. And again, I wanted to stress like how much I actually enjoyed that round three game, not just because I won. I think even if I lost that round three game, the people still on that table were still like into it, like competition wise, and still being competitive, but still like again had the brightest personalities, and I really enjoyed playing with them. But moving to a more negative light to round four. So I'm at the point where I know I have 2 wins and 8 points, and everyone's like, "Dude, you already got it. Just get 7, 8 points. You're good, bro." And I'm like, "I don't think so, dude. Like we have 120 people this time. In order for me to lock it, I need a win or I need nine, and I'm sweating. Like my stomach is wrenching. For people that don't know, I have Crohn's disease, so I already have stomach problems, right? But I going into the game, I was so nervous because I had barely eaten anything. I ate half a sandwich going into this, and bear in mind these games are 2 hours long each. So then I had I had orange juice, I had water, I was hydrated, but my sleep and my food were just not having it. So I was hungry, but I was also having stomach knots. That I don't know if you ever had like that kind of feeling. But anyway, I go into the game and I look at the BCP pairings. And again, I'm not going to talk bad about the individuals. And I'm not going to try to talk bad either about like the overall event or the hosts, but I do have to express the biggest pain point that I have with national events. And I think I expressed this in the feedback survey that they gave out and on the AMA. And again, I don't want to take anybody to take this like personally. I just want to express what I feel personally, and how I feel like we can improve the system as the Catan scene is expanding widely, not only in the U.S. but all over the world. Like the game's been out forever, but now the competitive scene is starting to take a bit of a bigger expansion as more content creators and more communities are coming out. So anyway, to the pain point. I go into the game. I have Sony on my table, who I didn't know who he was at the time, but now that I do, I think I should have approached that game a little differently. I checked the BCP pairings before we started, right? This is my point. So Sony's sitting across from me. He has 2 wins, 9 points. I know he only needs 8 points to make semifinals, so he's my biggest competition. Two players sitting across from me have 0 wins, 3 losses. They're out of the event. They're out of the tournament. So I'm already sitting on this table nervous as hell because of how my round two game went, where I was overly aggressive, overly hyped, and I pushed two people that didn't have that same drive. Not drive's the wrong word. That same attitude, and I made them mad. So now I'm kind of sitting at this table like, how the hell do I keep two people that have no chance to make semifinals not mad at me and still try their best to play this game? So we're sitting here, and the worst possible scenario plays out for me, where we're doing the placements and I think the placements go okay. I don't think anybody made like any serious like flip the board table like this game's trash kind of blunders. But Sony, who I later found out is from the Seattle area, the Super Sheeps. So they're expanding their team very well. They have a really strong player base up there in Seattle. I actually knew who Nabil was going into the event, and Nabil is one of the strongest players in that group. But anyway, point being, Sony's one of the strongest players out there. And one thing that I found, like not only watching the Nationals games, but just like a little bit of digging in general, is that the Seattle Sheeps team, and they'll correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm just going to give my observations so far. They really like playing port and coastal based strategies. As opposed to like locking up a center of a board or playing really defensive. So for people that have watched a lot of my games or know like a lot about me since I've been playing online for a long time, I don't like the offensive mentality at all. I would consider myself almost a strictly defensive player. So being put in a situation with Sonny, sorry, I keep freaking mispronouncing. But anyway, Sonny, we're going into this game in round 4, and he all of a sudden says, I think he was placing 8th. I could be wrong, but with his second settlement, he says, I need to place on your port to the player that has 0 wins, 3 losses. And then that player's like, if you do that, I already know I'm not making semis. I'm going to play this game with the intent to kill your game. I have no interest in playing. And I'm sitting here silent, like, holy shit. So they just verbally said that. And I understand, right? At this point, everybody's been playing Catan for like 6 hours. And if you have 0 wins, I fully understand burnout and just not wanting to play. But you're also not going to want to drop out of the event, because that not only makes you look really bad, but that's really bad on the organizers and all the time that you've spent going to the event, right? And again, I'm not going to say like going 0-3 means you're terrible or you're a terrible player, terrible. Like I have lost. I went 3 losses in last year's nationals, right? It can happen to anybody, even like the best of the best. You can have a bad streak. But I want to clarify that before you guys are going to assume that because I'm saying they're 0-3, they're 0-3, that they're bad players. They're not, right? So I just want to reiterate that before I continue. But anyway, so Sony says, I have to place on your port. And then the player across from me, she says, I'm 0-3. You guys know I have no chance. Why are you trying to piss me off? Like, if you do that, I have no interest in the game. And at this point, she's like going on her phone, scrolling, like, and then Sony's like trying to like plan out with the table. I'm just like, dude, like play your own game, because you're starting to make them mad. And I think that's going to screw with me, right? We're the only 2 people that have a chance. We need minimum 8, guaranteed 9 or 10 points to make it. Like, stop trying to like instigate this table. So he's sitting there over there in the corner, and then he goes to the other guy. He's like, actually, I think I'm gonna place over here and cut you off. And then it's the same story, and I'm like, dude, like, again, I have to watch the footage back to confirm what I'm saying is not BS, but this is what I felt in the heat of the moment and what I'm recollecting like a couple of days later. Like, those 2 people and Sony can share their own perspectives, but so Sonny is like kind of instigating with the placements, and I swear to you guys, these placements took minimum half an hour, or I think upwards of 45 minutes, and we're talking just putting the settlements down. So because of that, we literally had a discussion before the game even started about like, we have no chance. This is king making. Why are you cutting me off? Why are you doing this? And I'm like, dude, like there's not a lot of skin in the game for these guys. Just play the game and move it quick. They've been playing 6 hours and they know they're cooked. Just like get the game done. Like, not in a bad way, but in a sense like you're drawing this out longer than you need to. So what feels like 45 minutes later, we finally start. We're playing, games going good. I get off to an exceptionally, or not exceptionally, I feel like I get off to an early lead. And Sony's like complaining. Like, he's buying dev cards, but his position is trashed. And I will admit that he played that really well for what seemed like he was out of the game. Like, everybody like started coming together in a more positive light, like after that first disaster of like the first hour of that game where everybody's literally fighting with each other. We all started to like then take the game more seriously, take the game normally. Like, we started calming down, like trades started happening, there was no like personal comments made at all. Everybody was chill for what I felt like was okay. Sony started getting super behind, so the other two players finally we started cooperating. I gave him quite a bit of trades to balance out the board because at the end of the day, I want everybody to do well, but I still want to win. And I still, again, going back to the way that I play the game, I never want there to be a dead player. That mentality, to me, again, it's a playstyle preference. The mentality of I have to crush everybody and everybody has to get 5 points and I have to win. Like, I don't like that. I would rather the game be as close as possible because I think getting that edge into the game and keeping everybody interested and motivated is really how you control that variable of somebody wanting to give the win to someone else or wanting to just leave the table or not liking you because you're so far ahead that they just give all their cards away, right? So this is going on longer than I wanted it to. But anyway, we get to like the last couple stages in the game where the two players across from me, I think, are on 7 or 8 points each. I have 9 points win in hand. And then Sony is on my right over here with 8 points down development card that we know is not a knight because it's been on our spot for many rotations. Player to my left, she's like, I need to make this trade happen. And she flips 6 cards on the board and says, I have these 6 cards. I want these 2 cards. She doesn't have a brick port. She doesn't have a 3-1. And I'm like, Sony, you can't do this because you know she's on 7, 8 points. What if she's trading for the win? Like, to me, I can't really fathom a time or like a moment in this stage of the game where everybody's confirmed 7 or higher that you're willing to give 6 cards for 2 and have it not be like a sneaky trade for the win kind of deal. Now, had I been a better card tracker, that's my biggest weakness, by the way, but had I been a better card tracker, I would have understood that no, her position's completely stuck. She doesn't have a really good port to use the cards that she has. She's just trying to get her last point down before this game is over and end the game on 8, which, fair enough, right? Everybody's trying to do their best in this competition. I look over at Sony, who's like, shit, I'll snap on that deal. That's 6 cards for 2. And he just hands her the cards. And I'm sitting here like, dude, I got 9 points win in hand. And she's given away 6 really good cards that Sony does not produce. I believe Sony did not make a single brick on his own, like with placements or like with his own cards. And she hands him 6 brick. So then her turn passes. It goes to the next dude. I can't remember if I did a trade with him there or like the turn before. But point is, he doesn't end, like he passes his turn on 8, goes to Sony's turn. And I'm so nervous the fact that he just got 6 cards from this player. He rolls the dice, and I don't remember if it was Sony's roll or the guys before him dice roll, but he rolls his best freaking number, gets so many cards in his hand, plus the 6 brick that was already given. I believe it was an 8 roll. He gets wood and some other like thing. He has 20 cards, so he has like over 10 cards in his hand, and the down card that he has that's not a knight, he flips it up. It's a monopoly. He yanks almost all of those cards from my hand and ends the game. And I'm really, really mad. Like at this point, I'm angry because without that trade from that other player who did it to go to 7 to 8, who has no chance to compete, she just potentially could have knocked me out and gave the win to someone who I felt like I should have won that game because if he doesn't play the monopoly and get all those cards from her, even if he plays the monopoly, if he doesn't get all those cards from her, he has no chance to win the game. Like I already have, like we go another rotation and then I win. That's kind of like how the game at that point is moving, or how the game is kind of like proceeding in that direction. So just to give you like that kind of perspective, right? So then, right, so now I'm at 9 points, I'm good, but I'm still like really mad at the table. Like, and I'm telling her, like, you have no skin in the game. Like, why are you doing this? Why are you being a kingmaker? Like, so I don't think I said anything as like a personal attack. I definitely don't think I said any like cuss words or personal attacks or anything. But at this point, I'm really mad at Sony. And I'm really mad at the player across from me that gave him that trade. Like, again, I understand it's to get a point down. She might have thought that he only had 8 points and that maybe he would only go to 9. But, like, when you know that the card that he has face down in front of him is not a knight because it's been on a really important hex that hasn't moved in several rotations, I know it's a victory point, or I know it's a mono, or I know it's a Year of Plenty, and I call that out. But then you end the game with 20 plus cards, and I'm sitting over here on 9 with, like, I think what I had was like 12 cards in my hand. Like, dude, like, come on, like. But anyway, so Sony wins the game. He handshakes, and I'm like, dude, I'm not shaking your hand. Like, and again, that was a mistake. I regret that. Like, if you're watching this back later, Sony, I apologize. I really like your game. Like, you're a way better player than I am, and I think you played that game really well. And I'll be honest, if I'm in his position, like I can speak now, right, as someone that lost that game on 9 points that still thankfully made it. But if I had gotten 1 point less, I literally wouldn't. So again, actually, let me explain that too. So I got to 9 points, thankfully, right before like that closed out. If I got 8, I was out. I would have lost on the tiebreaker for 36. I needed that ninth or 10th point. So going back to Sony there though, like I'll be honest, like I talk myself up as someone that is too honest, too transparent, too open, and that hurts me a lot. But in the grand scheme of things, like the fact that I almost had my semifinals stripped away from me because of the actions of another player that had no chance in the competition, I was very upset at him, and I was very upset at the event overall. Going back to my biggest complaint of the event overall, I think that you should not be putting players that have 0 wins up against players that have 2 wins. I think that they need to find a way to make the BCP pairings pair the players as equally as possible based on wins for a couple of reasons, right? The first reason is if you're winning all of your games, like round one, round two, round three, whatever, you're probably a much better player than most of the people there. And you should be put against much better players, right? That again, that's something that I think. Number two, which is way more important to me, is you take the players that are winning a lot, that are seemingly being really sweaty, really try hard, and you're placing them against people with similar personalities, certain positions, certain mentalities that are already not exhausted after an 8-hour day, right? And then you're putting players that don't have a win or have 1 win together. And I'm not going to call that like a casual, like laid back experience, but you're not going to have one person be so sweaty and like scream and 3 people just be like, dude, I've been here for 8 hours and I want to go home. I'm not winning. Like, so to me, like, if they can find a way to fairly divide those two groups, because what I personally believe, that was my biggest complaint of the overall entire event. And it's strictly because I understand the perspective of both sides. I want to be sweaty. I want to win because I can do it, or I literally have no chance. Why do I care? I just want this to be over and done so I can clock out. Like just find that's in my opinion that's the way to solve that problem. You pair them based on how many wins you have, how many points you have per round, not just, oh, you're gonna randomly get assigned your 4 people every single game. Like to me, I don't like that. I don't. And I think it's a very fair way to do it. But I'm open to criticism on that. So again, I want to apologize to Sonny because I didn't shake his hand. I walked away from that table very upset. But reflecting on it after what felt like hours of still like that anger in me, and it's so dumb, right? At the end of the day, I already knew I qualified with 9 points, and I still hold like not right now, but I still at that moment held such anger and such bitterness, like dude, that I could have won 3 out of 4 with 8 points on my fourth. That's a way better score than like 90 something percent of the people there. But now with only 37, I'm like going to be placing on like the lower half of the top 16, and like my ego right there, right, is like I deserve to be the top 4, top 3 people here. Like now that I'm only top 10, like I hate this, like I'm so mad. Like at that point I was like, why am I doing this to myself? I already did exceptionally well, like better than literally 95% of like 90 something percent of people there, and I'm still holding such a grudge toward myself and the other players on that table that it's so toxic, right? And now that I'm sitting here reflecting, I've calmed down. I realized that was a really bad mentality to have in that moment. So again, I want to apologize to any of those 3 players if I said anything that I shouldn't have. Again, I have to watch the footage back. I know for certain that I kept myself composed to where it wasn't anything personal, but I definitely know that I said some things that I shouldn't have. Then so I want to reiterate that I apologize for that. Wow, this is getting long. I'm going to try to close this out within the next maybe 10 minutes or so. But anyway, I qualify to semis. I go up to my hotel room. Everybody else is either flying out at this point, or they're sticking around to watch, or they're going out to celebrate for dinner. They ask me if I want to come, right? Because I'm a semifinalist. I think about it. I even go outside, and then I second guess myself, and I'm like, I need to understand that I'm not in the emotional state right now, even though I should be, right? I should be on the roofs. Like I know I lock semifinals. Like I should be like carrying the world. Let's drink down. Let's eat. Like like let's celebrate. But at that point, I was so like socially burnt. Not even like just toward those specific people, but toward like myself. Like I'm like I don't even know if I want to be here. And like that is such a selfish mentality to have because I still placed top 16, but I'm so mad that I didn't place top 4, top 3, whatever, that it's literally ego. Like it's twisting in my mind. Like I'm the best person here. Like these guys just like these guys robbed my opportunities. Like if I didn't get put against this guy or he did this that made perfect sense. Like no. You need to understand like competitive Catan aside, when you play this game, you cannot have that mentality of this person should have done this. That's not how it works, right? The whole game is you play to yourself. You try to tell other people what you want to happen, what you need to happen for your game. You try to get your points across. But if that doesn't happen, you cannot lash out on other people. That is completely unacceptable, first of all. But the second thing is you have to try to compose yourself so you're not taking that inward. The only thing that is worse than taking it out on other people is taking that out on yourself. So to like give you like a I can't believe I'm like almost starting to shed a tear now, but that's how like at this point like how I feel about it all, right? So at that point like I was like why am I doing this to myself? Like I did so well, right? Like so anyway, I go up to the hotel room. I'm like, and I'm writing in Discord, and everybody's like, "Dude, go to sleep. Like, stop ranting about the game. Like, just calm yourself down. Like, it's okay. You made it." I'm just like, dude, oh my God, like, but anyway, so I make finals, and I'm looking at these tables, and I'm like, how the hell do I deserve to be here? Like, these people are way better than I am, and I played my semifinals game, and it gets live streamed, and I'm just like so happy, right? Like, not only did I get picked for that, but I won that game. Sorry, I think I have to end this soon because I'm getting there. But I played this semifinals game and I won, and I just my feeling is just like why me? Why not someone else? You know, like it's a it's such a surreal moment because if you were to if you were to ask me these questions or go back like even just a year, like I was such a nasty person to so many different people that I didn't feel like I deserved to like even say hi to some people, you know, like it was it was such a it was such a nice thing like that the amount of people that were rooting for me that were so nice and respectful that I didn't feel like I deserved that kind of treatment and yeah I made finals and I made finals, you know, like that's you can't ask for anything better like yeah, finals in arguably the hardest Catan event that has ever happened. You know, like it's sorry, it's I think I either have to make a second part or cut it really soon here. But yeah, I wanted to express like how important that entire experience was to me and how just how just happy I am that that happened. How happy that I am that I got to meet all these people, have this type of experience, and just it's just so surreal to me. I'm gonna try to compete again next year. There's already some qualifiers that are posting up, but I don't have enough vacation time or money to do this again this year. I gotta focus on my personal and then my work life and other things going on before I jump completely back into Catan. But I do want to express that we have a lot of upcoming things that I think you guys are going to be very excited about coming from both me, other content creators, people that I'm currently DMing and collaborating with. We have a lot of footage. I didn't even get to say that. Sorry, let me talk about that briefly. Poetry and Lotion, aka Darius, and then Delighted, that you guys definitely know, Dylan. I gave them each of my recording setups. And then, of course, Rowan got to do one of his because Delighted and Poetry got put against each other in one game. We have over 20 hours of preliminary Catan National footage for you guys to review, on top of the semifinals and finals that I was blessed to be a part of. That I want to cut down and analyze and break apart. That I think you guys are going to find to be really entertaining games and I hope you guys can maybe learn some things out of it. I'm gonna first maybe try to split it and share it to like people that I'm really related to, people that I find to be much better players than myself, to like go through the footage and see where people did good, did bad, so I could kind of commentate, narrate over it a little bit. I think the games that Delighted did, so we everybody did 4 games between the 4 of us. or sorry, the three of us minus one game that Rowan Rodog did. So we're gonna like put these games together. Um, I might use a little bit of the audio. I'm gonna try not to use all of it because things can be taken out of context, and I really don't want any of the players there to feel like attacked or personalized. But I kind of want it to be like a learning experience for not only the people there that played, but people that are on the outside that can use this experience that we had. Um, and learn from it. And because we were the only people there that recorded, I was so nervous going into that event because there were so many rules and stipulations around it. Like everybody on the table had to agree to it, like to use like audio or like the board game footage. And then you couldn't like live stream, which is obvious, right? You can't cheat or anything like that. And then you can't like, you can't record anybody's faces in it for privacy reasons. But if I didn't bring my recording footage, nobody would have anything on these preliminary games other than words and point totals. Like, so the fact that I had the ability to do that too and get all that footage for you guys, I really hope that I can publish that and get that out within a timely manner so you guys can really like feel what I was feeling in those games and in those situations that I think is just amazing. So I'll end it here. I know I didn't really talk about semis or finals too much, but this video is already a lot longer than I thought it would, and actually have to go to work very soon, so I need to like compose myself again. So there might be a second part later, but if you guys have made it this far into the video, I really appreciate it. This was completely unscripted, unedited. I just saw Delighted's video briefly, so I just kind of wanted to do the same thing because my heart goes out to him and to people like him that play this game, that get to that moment of frustration and burnt out. And I've personally said that I quit, that I hate this game so many times. I've cussed out so many people, so many groups. I've created myself to be a villain, and in some cases I wanted to be a villain. But now that I've just like over this past year, I think that I've grown a lot, both in maturity and both like in game like experience wise, that I'm starting to see like how important the human element and the emotional element is as opposed to all this bullshit like ego thing, like just yeah. So anyway, I gotta end it here because like I said, I gotta get to work in a minute. But thank you guys so much for your support, and if you've made it this far, like it just means the world to me that you guys have even clicked on this video. But yeah, take care, guys. Stay tuned for more stuff shortly. Take care.